is a threat to our democratic republic. He's acting like a king, a mob boss, a wannabe dictator. He said he wanted to be a dictator on day one. It looks like he's extending it.
Extending it. Well, that's the Lizard King there. If he's talking, he's lying. Hey, has President Trump been calling on Republicans everywhere to go out and punch people in the face like Democrat Governor Pritzker? Have Republicans been firebombing governors' mansions? And who's the authoritarian gang here, the violent mob in the street beating up Jack Posobiec yesterday? At the instruction of a Democrat member of the House of Representatives? These are legitimate questions. Maybe Terry Moran should listen to my radio show. He'd have to remove his head from his dark and remote location. I still need to get to President Trump in his speech in Michigan last night, where a left-wing radical disrupted the event. And President Trump, as he has been known to do in the past, spoke up about the radical disrupting the event. Then he had a moment there where he couldn't quite discern whether it was a man or a woman, which happens a lot when Democrats are around. In fact, I learned only today that Robert De Niro, the once great actor, Robert De Niro, gave that up a long time ago, has a son that now says that he is Robert De Niro's daughter, because Democrats have a lot of issues with gender and genitalia and sexual matters, and that's why they should be kept away from the children and shouldn't have the tranny books for kindergarten, and they like bring strippers in to twerk for kindergarten and first grade of trannies, they have prostitutes. We've seen this. You're a prostitute. We've seen this in the past, but remarkable stuff. Robert De Niro's son, Nepo baby. The Nepo baby son shows off shock transformation with heels and pink hair in rare sighting, dressed like, looks like could be a street professional of some kind. Robert De Niro's son, Aaron, Aaron Kendrick. Why Aaron Kendrick? Is Kendrick Lamar the father and Robert De Niro's the mother? How does that work? Aaron Kendrick with an Aaron showed off a whole new look, you could say that, on a rare outing with his famous father out in New York City on Tuesday. Sure, as he accompanied the taxi driver star, 81 years old. See, that was at 1974 or something. Still living off the 1974 movie. Hasn't really done a lot of great stuff since then. To the Greenwich Hotel. Aaron, who is 30 years old, looked dramatically different, sure, than his public appearance, his past public appearances. Now, the Aaron, Aaron, like a normal person in civilization, has now changed his name and goes by Aaron, which he now misspells. Isn't that great? His mother is actress Toukie Smith. Toukie. Hey, Toukie, come over to the house. Maybe we could have a transgender kid. So Toukie Smith, best known for her role as Ava Rawley on the NBC sitcom 227. I don't know if you can be best known for that, since nobody's ever even heard of the television series. It's difficult to be best known. So now Aaron spells his name Airyn, right? From Aaron, Aaron De Niro is ready to be seen on her own terms, meaning his own terms. The Democratic Party did this to this poor young man who is now a poor 30-year-old man who says, I'm a lady. I'm not Aaron. I'm Aaron or something like that. Aren't they amazing? This is what the Democrats do. This is who they are. And Robert De Niro, what is he? He's got 7 kids, apparently, according to one thing I read this morning. He's got 7 kids by 9 different women, which is kind of weird. Kind of weird. He doesn't really have 7 kids by 9. That would be mathematically impossible. But with Democrats, it's hard to say for sure. Aren't they amazing? President Trump having a cabinet meeting today as well. And the Joe Biden, did he ever have a cabinet meeting in 4 years? President Trump has cabinet meeting after cabinet meeting, talking big stuff, talking about huge money, talking about all the good stuff. Democrats. Aren't they amazing? But I have more because President Trump's rally in Michigan last night, big deal. And was it a transgender person that disrupted? It's hard to say. But I'll share some of the events from the Michigan Trump rally that happened last night as well. But right now, let me go to the mailbag because it's Mailbag Wednesday. Hump Day in the Clinton House, Mailbag Day on the Chris Plant Show. And Lance Walters has the first question today. Where is the Epstein list? When are there going to be arrests? That is an excellent question, Lance Walters. And in fact, I was, at Newsmax yesterday or day before yesterday, I was talking about the very same thing. I would like to have the FBI and the Justice Department, whoever has the Epstein list, go public with the list. I don't care if they're Republicans on it. I assume it's at least 90% Democrats, with the child sex trafficking on Epstein Island and Epstein's airplane. And let's get the name. Why hasn't the name been released? That should be asked at White House briefings. It should be asked at Justice Department briefings. It should be asked at State Department briefings. It should be asked every day, where is the Jeffrey Epstein list? In fact, there is a tragic story out of that one of the young women that was abused by the Jeffrey Epstein gang apparently committed suicide. A young woman that was abused, she says, by a member of the royal family, Prince yada yada, and she went public with this, and she had a tragic demise. And perhaps I'll get more into that later. But I agree with you, Lance. We need to release the Epstein list. Why hasn't it been released? Release the Epstein lists. The John F. Kennedy assassination CIA documents allegedly came out and didn't make much of a splash at all. The Epstein list should have come out. We're at 100 days, 101 days now of the Trump administration part 2, and that list should be public. Lance Walters is correct. Why has it not been made public? Very corrupt country we live in, very corrupt city is Washington, D.C., that I live in. Great question, no good answer, Lance Walters, but thank you for the question. Second question in the mailbag today, Pat in Austin, Texas. Pat in Austin, Texas says, Chris, why doesn't the administration make Amazon, AMZ, publish the country of origin for every retail item they broker? Jeff Bezos and Amazon and everything in the world is for sale there. Why doesn't the administration compel Amazon to publish the country of origin for everything that Amazon sells? This would allow people to decide whether they want to buy cheap Chinese junk or spend a little more to, get us to buy American. I like the idea of Amazon posting the country of origin underneath everything they sell. I'm not sure I like the idea of the administration forcing them to do that, because that's a private sector matter. But I've got to say, maybe we should start something here that Amazon should, if not be required to, Amazon should post on the page with every item they're selling the country of origin. Because we have the Chris Plant store on Al Gore's Amazing Internet, and we do not sell anything made in China. We do have things made in Vietnam, but we do not have anything made in communist China. Vietnam is as close as we get, and the Vietnamese people are not the bad guys there. The Chinese Communist government using 1 billion people plus as slave labor is something that does not sit comfortably with me. So we, Randy Lefebvre and I, we refuse to put our anything made in communist China. And that's not an easy thing to do when you're running an online store. It's true. But But we do post on the store that nothing is made in communist China. Nothing is made in China because of communism and slavery, which the Democrats are happy with, being the party of slavery and everything. But I love the idea that Amazon should publish the country of origin. Maybe anytime, I'm not sure, I might have bought one thing on Amazon once in my life, but that's it. My best girl, she buys things online. I don't do a lot of that, certainly. And Amazon, very unusual. Very, very, very unusual for me. But, maybe every time you buy something there, put a note that they should publish the country of origin for everything. Teresa, our third question in the mailbag today. Teresa asks, what is the best way, legal way, to push back against our lousy representatives that would have some teeth? Threats to primary them are useless. We don't have time for that anyway. And they know that. So what is the best way to push back? You publish online reviews of your opinions. You do recommend primaries if you're not happy with your elected representative, and that means on a state level in the state house and a county level, and certainly for Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Luckily for me, I live in Washington, D.C. I don't have any representatives in the House of Representatives or any senators, and that's best for the world, believe me, when it comes to Washington, D.C. and who would be elected. But what is the best way to push back? Teresa, that's a great question that a lot of people have been asking for decades, and certainly since the internet. I mean, you can post your disapproval online. You can stand up Facebook pages that oppose you can start Twitter threads, X threads that oppose the member, the elected official that you don't like. But it is, and then you vote, or you run against them yourself. And Teresa is a great name. We should have more representatives named Teresa. It is a wonderful name. But that is, that's the age-old question, Teresa, and it's not an easy one to answer, that's for sure. What's the best thing to do, legal thing to do? Oppose them with every breath that you take, and let your displeasure be known online, and campaign against them, and maybe run against them. But beyond that, that's the age-old question that we've, as a culture, been struggling with for a long, long time. Stuart G. Honeck says, greetings, Chris. Your dad and my grandmother, Lynn Honeck, used to have a show together in Wisconsin way back. I love listening to your show online from the Great Smoky Mountains, the beautiful Great Smoky Mountains. And that's fun. I've mentioned this before, but my family, starting with my mother's father, Patrick Henry Barnes, started his radio career in 1924, his own show. His first show, he had been on the radio since 1922, but his first show in 1924, and my grandfather in New York and Chicago, most of his radio career. Later in his career, he went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, WISN TV there, where he had his own show. My mother, his daughter, had her own show on WISN. My father died when I was very young. My mother moved to Milwaukee. We moved in with her parents, and my grandfather was on TV. My mother was on TV, and on radio. My mother on radio from the time she was 7 years old in New York City. My mother met my stepfather, married Bill Plant, who was a young cub reporter at WISN when he started out in the news business. Everybody I knew was on TV and on radio. And, Stuart, I thank you for that. And I'm going to go look on Al Gore's Amazing Internet for Lynn Honeck as well to see what I can find. That's fun. And my family's been on the air for more than 100 years now. I'm not sure there's another family in the country that can say that. But, Stuart, a fun item there for our mailbag today. Fun. As Mother's Day approaches, I want to highlight an organization that cares very deeply for mothers, and that is Preborn. When a distressed mother comes to Preborn, she's welcomed with open arms and offered a free ultrasound so that the young mother can hear and see the precious life growing inside of her, hoping that she will choose life. This Mother's Day, you can help bring life to both a mother in need and an at-risk baby, because one ultrasound provided by Preborn is only $28 American dollars. 5 ultrasounds are only $140. If you're a business owner, perhaps you can consider a larger donation. A donation of $1,000, $2,000, even $15,000 will sponsor an ultrasound machine for a needy clinic, helping to save countless unborn babies' lives for years to come. All your gifts are tax deductible to the extent allowable by law, of course. To get involved, all you have to do is dial pound 250. You dial pound 250, and when prompted, you say the keyword baby. That's pound 250. The keyword is baby. Or you can visit preborn.com on Al Gore's amazing internet, preborn.com/plant. That's preborn.com/plant. And I got to tell you, our smart listeners with tough questions, a couple of them hard to answer because, what do you do about useless elected officials? That's a great question. That's a wonderful question. And Amazon should publish the country of origin of everything they sell. And the Justice Department should release the Jeffrey Epstein list. And they should do it today. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Now, because of our wonderful mailbag people, and the question from Lance Walters, I have an update on this. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna calls out the Department of Justice for failing the public trust by not releasing the Epstein client list. Anna Paulina Luna raising heck about that. And our great friends at Judicial Watch, the wonderful Judicial Watch, is now suing the Trump Department of Justice to release the Jeffrey Epstein client list. They shouldn't have to be sued in the Trump Department of Justice to release the Jeffrey Epstein client list. Now, there are some legal issues because you don't want to release the young women that were abused and their names can be entangled in the legal documents and so on. But, come on, it's been 101 days. You can go through the list. You can clean it up so none of the wrong names, no false names, none of the women that were abused by the Jeffrey Epstein big Democrat guy. But this is a big deal, and Lance Walters, I went looking on your behalf. Anna Paulina Luna raising Cain about it, and Judicial Watch suing and raising Cain about it, which is just great. The wonderful people at Judicial Watch, and good for Anna Paulina Luna. Yeah, I love Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch. Wonderful, suing the Justice Department, shouldn't have to get the Jeffrey Epstein client list. What is with our government? The deep state runs deep, doesn't it? And Tom Fitton, do you have that Tom Fitton thing? Tom Fitton appeared on the Newsmax channel, where I have a television show at 10 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Tom Fitton went on the Chris Salcedo show on the Newsmax channel because Chris Salcedo and Newsmax also wanted to know why the Jeffrey Epstein client list has not been released, just as Lance Walters wanted to know. Tom Fitton on the Chris Salcedo show on Newsmax.
Yeah, it was a simple request. We said, give us the Epstein records. Chris, we asked the Justice Department and the FBI also for records in Kash Patel's office and Attorney General Bondi's office for records about that whole screw-up of a release where it was revealed that there may have been FBI interference or some other interference in the review of the documents. And when we asked for the records under law, we gave them more than enough time, more time than even the law necessarily calls for to respond to us. We've got no response.
We've got no response. How can you have no response? Come on, you're Judicial Watch. You're Tom Fitton. This is the Trump administration, and come on.
And in my view, this is the best way to get the information to the American people in a trustworthy fashion, because through the FOIA process, you get the documents. They are required typically to tell you what documents you're not getting, if they're withholding anything, what they're withholding and why, some detail there, where the records were, who did the search, what was searched, all essential to reassure the public that we're getting everything that's possibly to be gotten.
That's a good idea because, confidence and the government, those are words that do not go together well. And honestly, I know there's a lot to do, and it's 100 days, and you got mountains of illegal aliens to climb and all of that good stuff. And we've got a lot going on. I get that, but release the documents. How about that? Does that seem fair? Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, been very busy, very busy, no doubt. But this is a little bit of a big deal. And Anna Paulina Luna, 2 Epstein victims are now dead, she tweeted out the night before last. Every day, the DOJ delays releasing the Epstein client list. Public trust erodes, and more lives are put at risk, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. I'm calling on the DOJ and Attorney General Pam Bondi to act immediately, release the files. The American people deserve the truth. And good for Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Let's go. Chop, chop, choppity chop. I'm not sitting around waiting. Come on. Our government. And this is when, the good guys have taken over. For the love of. Can I say for the love of? Because pretty amazing stuff. That's now let's go to the Democrat governor of the once great state of Minnesota. His name is Tim Walz, and he ran as the Democrat Party's vice presidential nominee with Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris, again, has a speech tonight in San Francisco. This is worthy of note because she's not running for office, right? Am I right about that? But for the general admission to see the Kamala Harris speech at a hotel in San Francisco tonight, $250 for general admission. But if you want top level, they call it sponsorship. What are you sponsoring? She's not running for anything. $50,000 for top level sponsorship to go to a Kamala Harris speech, who is not running for anything. And you can watch it streaming on the internet for $25 per seat. That's what they say, a digital seat. $25 to watch it streaming online. $250 for general admission to the Kamala Harris speech at a hotel in San Francisco. And if you want top-level sponsorship status, where presumably, you get the usual, a photograph and all of that, $50,000 to go to a Kamala Harris speech. Why would anyone do that? Well, the answer is to buy influence. And they're selling it. Isn't that amazing? And what are they pitching? Kamala Harris plans to take on Trump. That's a shock, isn't it? In first major speech since leaving office, but it'll cost you to watch. That's the headline here, and isn't that amazing? You got to pay to stream it online. You've got to pay $250 for general admission to watch a Kamala Harris. What is she running for? What is she offering? What is that about? And $50,000 for top-level treatment, You know that there are Americans still being held hostage in Gaza, at least one presumed dead, and 3 more they're holding the dead bodies of people they kidnapped and murdered because they're savage ghouls from a medieval troglodyte hell, and they must all be exterminated from the earth for the benefit of humanity. But 3 Americans, and by the way, I believe the White House is meeting with the family of the one that is believed to possibly still be alive, and the Trump White House meeting with the family, the parents. I believe that's happening today at the White House in Washington. Isn't that amazing? The Democrats. All right, now I mentioned Tim Walz because Tim Walz, the man who would be vice president, he was doing an event at the Harvard University where they hate the Jews. Did you know that? They hate the Jews. Kind of crazy. In fact, Harvard put out a statement on the anti-Semitism report because there's a new report out on the rampant anti-Semitism at Harvard University. And the Harvard interim president, because the last one was resigned in disgrace. Harvard statement on anti-Semitism report. I am sorry for the moments going on for months, when we failed to meet the high expectations we rightfully set for our community. There's that community again. I don't think they know what a community is. Yeah, your standards are incredibly low for education, too. But the anti-Semitism is rampant there. And that's their statement from Alan Garber, the Harvard interim president for the moment. I'm sorry for the moments when we failed to meet our high expectations. You're so close to being the Nazi party. It's like Munich 1933 at Harvard. All right, now let's get back to Governor Walz, because this is kind of amusing. He was at Harvard University, and he is telling us all now that he's some kind of a Navajo code talker, because he's now saying, Walz says Harris picked him for VP to, well, let's let him explain it himself, at Harvard University. My friend Marty and I going back and forth on this because it's so ridiculous. They're so completely embarrassing. Walz, why did Kamala Harris pick Tim Walz, Minnesota? Well, they couldn't pick Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania because he's a Jew. And the Democrat Party is the Socialist Workers Party. And they're targeting Jewish Americans all over the place, at Harvard and every place else. And he, the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania, had his governor's mansion firebombed while he and his kids and his wife were sleeping inside. And you remember when Tim Walz, when the Democrats were burning the city of Minneapolis, his wife, Tim Walz's wife, bragged about how she left the windows open at night as the days went by burning the city because, George Floyd, St. George Floyd. And she said she left the windows open at night because she liked the smell of her city burning in a state where her husband is governor and she's living in the governor's mansion. It hadn't been firebombed yet, but he's not Jewish. So we got that. But here is the man who would be vice president, Tim Walz, explaining why Kamala Harris picked him to be the running mate.
I was on the ticket, I would argue, because we did a lot of amazing progressive things in Minnesota to improve people's lives. But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And you look across those swing states, with the exception of Minnesota, we didn't get enough of those votes.
Yeah, you lost every swing state with the exception of Minnesota, which is the only state that, Ronald Reagan lost to Walter Mondale the second time around. 49 states for Ronald Reagan, 1 state for Walter Mondale. It was Minnesota. And Tim Walz, there's Tim Walz, the governor, Democrat, Minnesota. And he says that I could code talk to white guys. Code talk, no, you can't. You're the most embarrassing white guy I've seen in politics in a long, long time.
I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck.
Yeah, loading their shotguns. Remember the video of Tim Walz trying to load a 12-gauge shotgun? It was like space aliens just landing from another galaxy would do a better job than he did. What a joke. Space aliens more likely to have served in Iraq, too. Speaking of which, in Iraq, the Iraqis have arrested an Islamist jihadi there, ISIS guy, and they say that he somehow was involved in the radical Islamic terrorist attack on New Year's in New Orleans, Louisiana. And now in Iraq, ISIS suspect arrested in New Orleans Bourbon Street terror attack that killed 14. That was on New Year's. And now the Iraqis have arrested somebody, and they'll probably execute him before the trial because it's Iraq. But Iraqi authorities on Tuesday confirmed the arrest of an ISIS member accused of inciting the New Year's terrorist attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans that left 15 people dead. Great, the news story in the headline says 14 people. In the first sentence, it says 15 people killed. Journalism. The arrest comes after 42-year-old Shamuddin Jabbar of Texas killed 14 civilians. Now it says 14 again. This is a Fox News story. Somewhere in there, 14 or 15. Injured 57 others when he rammed his Ford F-150 pickup truck through the crowds of people celebrating New Year's. Famous New Orleans street around 3 a.m. on January 1st. Jabbar was killed in a shootout with police. It was another suicide attack. That's how you know he's either a jihadi or a Democrat, because that's what they do. Aren't they amazing? And I still haven't gotten to President Trump in Michigan. Let's go to President Trump with, is that a transgender person disrupting the Trump speech in Michigan last night? President Trump couldn't tell for sure, but a Democrat disrupting the Trump speech last night.
What's the problem over there? What's the problem? Is that a radical left lunatic? He's just a child. All right, get him out. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought it was a guy.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought it was the guy. The crowd is jeering and having fun.
And she now has to go home to a mother who's a big Trump fan. Her mother's watching. Sorry. I'm sorry. I said he, and it's a she. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, in Democrat land, it doesn't really make a lot of difference. She might switch on the ride home. Isn't that amazing? All right, I'm running out the clock on myself again. I can't stand it. I need to go do another. I need to go do a TV show on Newsmax, I think. We don't have a ton of time, but let's grab a phone call. Let's go to Charles, calling from Frederick, Maryland. Charles, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking the call. I met you about 6 years ago. I've called a couple times over the years. But I like to always remind you of where the book is.
My book? The book?
When you talk, the book, yeah, the book. The one your wife might even want. You told me once before.
It's true.
Because when you were talking about your family's history and just your involvement over the years, I do think that a lot of people would find interest in it, and it would be a blessing to many of us. So I just called to basically I met you before I went to surgery in 60, I guess I was 68. And I thought I said, what am I going to ask you about when I met you in Gaithersburg? And you basically, I'm just saying, is I said, you know, I asked the Lord, what is it that I wanted to ask you? And it was basically, where is the book?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you, Charles. It is long overdue, and you're certainly right about my best girl as well, because she will tell you and she will tell me that it is long overdue. And I have two books in mind right now. My best girl gave me a great book title the other night, and I thanked her for it. And I really need, you know what, I need time. I need time. I work about 16 hours a day as it is. But, Charles, I thank you for that reminder. You are correct. My loving bride appreciates your call as well. And maybe this call will light a fire under me at long last. Charles, thank you very much.
I could code talk to white guys watching football fixing their truck.
I've become friends with school shooters.
Do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a tramp.
I'm sorry, Joan Rivers declaring, Michelle is a tranny. Michelle Obama's a tranny. Well, another weird thing happened with Michelle Obama. She was talking to a group of people, and there's, I don't know if she talks to white people, but there is a black guy there saying, hey, my kid is all screwed up, and it's a little peculiar, but I'll let you listen to what Michelle said and draw your own conclusions.
You are being a role model for dealing with a child that's transgender.
Absolutely.
And that's, that warms my heart, particularly as a black man.
I'm sorry, what? Was that, did she just confess that Joan Rivers was right all along?
That warms my heart, particularly as a black man.
Yeah, particularly as a black man. Semantics matter, words matter. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. That's Big Mike. Big Mike giving away the story there. I want to share with you this also because the great people at the Media Research Center, wonderful Brent Bozell and the gang at the just great people, the media, they monitor the news media, and Iris Miller and I were going back and forth at the Media Research Center today. They have a new analysis of the news media, ABC News and CBS News and NBC News and CNN. And it turns out that the coverage, the negative coverage of the Trump cabinet and allies, RFK Jr. has enjoyed 89% negative coverage, 89%, about 9 out of 10. Negative coverage of Elon Musk, 96%. That's more than 19 out of 20 negative. But taking the prize is Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth with negative coverage of 100%. 100% negative coverage. Isn't that great? And then Pete Hegseth, because he's got a sense of humor about this, he posted on X, in case you're wondering what we, the president, President Trump, and I are up against, 100% negative coverage from the so-called mainstream media in the first 100 days. Isn't that amazing? And he posted, come on, Robert Kennedy and Elon Musk, you guys can do better. You guys can do better. He says, hey, come on, I've got 100% negative coverage. Elon Musk, only negative 96%. And RFK Jr., he was a Democrat until a minute ago. Of course, Elon Musk was a Democrat until a minute ago, too. Boy, when the Democrat Party turns on you, they really turn on you. Got to start fireproofing your house and your kids because the left is here. Yeah, pretty funny by Hegseth. Come on, you guys can do better. I'm at 100% negative. Try to catch me.